you have to work hard for deal flow, even if you're very good. I would say it helps to be lucky to hear about the right deal about the right time. But the famous saying that the harder I work, the luckier I get.
Welcome to a new episode of the Startup Empathy video series. In this episode, you get to meet Eze, who is a partner at Remagine Ventures. Remagine Ventures is a venture capital fund investing in technology startups disrupting media, entertainment, sports, and commerce. They're investing in Israel and Europe. I hope you enjoyed this video and you can learn a lot. Eze, thank you so much for taking the time today. I'm very excited to have you. You are, you are the first VC on this show. So far, we've only had entrepreneurs, very, very promising startups. And this Startup Empathy video series is really the first time we can go truly global and ask entrepreneurs from all around the world their different ways of interacting with this crisis. And I'm very excited to also get the other side of the table. But I think the one question that everybody's most curious about right now is like, where are you working from?
So I'm working from my virtual office, as you can see behind me. But really, I'm in my flat in London. London, I would say, is pretty tricky right now. Second to the US in the number of deaths. So they still haven't opened up like Israel, but I can't wait to get back to the office, really.
Yes. I mean, like for me, like I'm here at this like studio, which is like a pop-up studio from Vision, and Vision is this AI-powered operating system for cameras that really helps to create those videos, and I'm really excited to be here and record those videos here. So let's get first started, Eze, because again, probably not everybody knows you yet on my channel, and you're also a rather new fund. So maybe just give us like a 1-minute introduction about Remagine Ventures, which I'm really excited to hear from your side.
Sure. So I'm one of the two managing partners at Remagine Ventures. We're a 35 million seed fund investing at the intersection of entertainment, tech, data, and commerce. So we're really interested to be the first institutional investor in startups that are changing the world of entertainment, gaming, sports, pretty much everything you do in those worlds. It's also outside of work. Coronavirus has been a very interesting time for us because I would say that it had two forced experiments. One is remote working. Everyone had to adjust to working from home in one day, and all the cloud tools that startups have been using for a long time now become sort of like the new normal. But the other forced experiment is leisure time, or education, entertainment, gaming, how we spend our time outside of work. And those are the areas that we get very excited about.
Yes. So, I mean, like, what's interesting to me is to hear about like the changes that you had to make. Like you just mentioned work from home, but maybe you can elaborate a little bit, like what were like the actual like feelings that you had when you went through these changes, but like what were the practical differences of before and after?
So we work with primarily, but not only, with Israeli entrepreneurs. And I think Israeli entrepreneurs are used to having their market being remote, right? Like Israel is a negligible domestic market, so they're looking a lot at outside. So from that sense, the adjustment was pretty mild. But would say for us as a team, COVID-19 put a big emphasis on really helping our founders cross this crisis and being able to adapt to the new reality, whether that means sort of like extending their runway, adjusting their marketing spend, creating new forecasts, etc. So I would say a lot of the early weeks of the quarantine were focused on that. Now, basically, like looking forward and adjusting to this new normal. So we started offering virtual office hours. There's no events, there's no serendipitous way to meet people. So we want to remove the velvet rope of what it's like to speak with VC and create this like open space for entrepreneurs to come and ask feedback and really reduce stress of a pitch. We're also still investing, but I would say that first and foremost is stabilizing the portfolio, helping them with whatever they need to get to the next level, and then understand how we can be helpful in this time and be part of the solution from the venture community.
Now, again, like Remagine Ventures, as far as I'm informed, is based on institutional investors, like the big media companies. How is their sentiment now towards like venture capital and in general, like towards startups? I mean, like you're a new fund, so I think it's great timing. But in general, like what do you hear from them?
Entertainment is a mixed bag right now. On one hand, people are at home, so they're spending a lot more time consuming content. So when it comes to streaming platforms, videos, gaming, etc., that the consumption has gone up through the roof. Social tools, video chats, and whatnot. On the other hand, advertising market has been severely impacted with some of the results that came out last week, estimating around 40% drop in advertising. So I think everyone is really adjusting to this in-between scenario. Now, one example could be sports. There's not really like sports on TV. There's no sports games taking place. So these companies that a lot of their business is sports have to adjust. But I think at the other side of that, it's creating opportunities with things like esports or stream engagement technologies. One of our companies helps viewers of live streams engage with the content that they're seeing. So making it a lean-in experience versus a lean-back. And I think that we'll see an acceleration of some of those trends that were already in the making, but COVID-19 make them basically turbocharge maybe a few months forward or a couple of years forward.
That sounds super superstar. That sounds very impressive and very like using the moment to really accelerate like the process of adaptation across these interesting markets. Now, when you look at different focuses, like again, like you're in the gaming and new media industry, or let's say the entertainment industry, what is it that let's say now emerged on your radar that maybe was not there before the coronavirus?
So it's an interesting question because I think a lot of what we do as venture capitalists is look at the future, right? Like we are not necessarily investing for the current trend. Our investments have like a few years of horizon. So we're looking at what's going to be big in 5 to 10 years time, 7 years time. I think generally speaking, that hasn't changed a lot. We are very interested in this crossover between, the real world and the virtual world and the opportunities that it creates. I'm sure that you've heard recently Fortnite held a concert inside the game with 12 million concurrent viewers. And if you consider the fact that it's going to take a while probably for musicians to be able to fill stadiums for a gig, suddenly this combination of the virtual and the real world becomes really interesting, and it helps you think about sort of like what else can be done in the virtual world that we can no longer do, at least for the short period of time in the real world. I would say generally speaking, our thesis didn't change, but we're much more open to things that are basically have a product zeitgeist fit. Basically, the product is exactly what the market needs right now. So one of our companies is called Hour One, and they generate synthetic video, which is video generated without a camera using AI. So what they are able to do is take text content and make it into video, having a human basically speak the text. As an example of their technology, they took the World Health Organization FAQ and made it into a series of short videos, because the retention of information from video, especially when a human is talking to you, is much higher than reading dense text, specifically medical text. So, when we're looking at the technologies, we're not just looking at in the past, like, is it, a big market? Can the technology, generate a big business? Is it the right team to develop this company? But we're also looking like, how does it fit in the new reality? Like what opportunities are suddenly opened up that this company can take advantage of, and why hasn't it been done before? So the question of why now, I think, is more important even now than before.
Now, one of the things I'm curious to know from the other side of the table is like now you have a couple of portfolio companies and you're trying to probably support them as much as you can. But what are, let's say, the key struggles that you kind of hear, the key problems that they have that you feel like there's like across the board is the same?
We have 7 portfolio companies. Each one is unique in its own way, and some of them are more advanced than others. But I would say that number one is communication is key, right? Like we want to understand what they're going through and their specific struggles to be able to support them. But there are a few things that go across the board, right? So I think it's very important for everyone to do proper cash management at this time, as funding might become more scarce in the near future. That means, revising their marketing spend, not completely stopping their hiring, but really thinking about, like how many heads they add and how do they contribute to the business. Because again, everything that can extend runway gives the company more of a chance to survive this period and then come out to the market when the timing is better for fundraising. So what we're suggesting our companies is to look inwards and try to understand how they can make themselves more streamlined and lean. But at the same time, don't sacrifice sort of like traction and progress with the market. It might not be the best time to go and try to fundraise, but I think it is the right time to understand how your value proposition fits the market. Are customers willing to pay for it? Are you solving a real need for them? And if not, what adaptations do you need to make in order to be able to monetize your technology? Whether it is a consumer or enterprise, I think it's very important to sort of like focus on the fundamentals and build for the long term. When it comes to other needs, whether it's salary cuts or layoffs or measures, I think it's very dependent on the company and their specific situation. But we know that the CEOs have to make some hard decisions right now, and it's important that they act swiftly, because dragging this might have a very bad impact on the company.
Sure. Maybe can you elaborate a little bit on these hard decisions? Like, what are you telling your startups to do, or like what are they struggling with, or what are these hard decisions?
I think what we're focusing is not telling them what to do. They are the driver. We are more like the coach or the passenger that can tell them not to take the wrong turn. So it's more being a sounding board and understand, like, how do you change your strategy? Because not straight changing the strategy is not the right solution, right? Like the world, at least for the time being, is going to be very different for the next few months. So you have to adjust. And we want to understand what are the adjustments that they are making. We can also suggest some adjustments, but also like try to help them find pockets of opportunity, right? So we have one company that the deal is not yet disclosed, but it's Israeli founders, and they are based in New York. And it's a very small team. They just raised money. So generally speaking, they're in a good position because they have a long runway, etc. But they don't want to now start hiring like crazy, because if they are not able to monetize and it's hard for them to fundraise in the near future, they don't want to really shorten their runway. So what they're doing is they received over 100 applications from interns from the top universities in New York, and they are getting a lot of people experience and onboarding them and giving them also something to say that especially people that got laid off, or students that are looking for opportunities. So they're leveraging this time to give people experience, but also see what employees can work out in the future. And I think what we encourage every one of our companies is to think, how can you be part of the solution, right? Like, what is your technology going to do to help alleviate either COVID-19, if our companies are more in the entertainment space, so it's less medical stuff, but every industry has been impacted. So, for example, one of our companies is Vault AI. They do predictive analytics for content, and they can understand, essentially replace human focus groups or panels to understand how content will perform, how will it resonate with the audience, etc. It's impossible to do panels right now because you can't put 15 people in a room for a whole day and ask them a bunch of questions. So we are essentially advising the CEO, like now is the time to go and do sales, perhaps not with new people that don't know the company or you, but go to the existing customers or leads and tell them how you can be part of the solution for them so they can continue doing their business at this in-between period.
The oxygen of VC is obviously deal flow. Can you get to see the right companies at the right stage and the right time? How are you making sure that this is continuing? I mean, obviously you have your office hours, but that it's more or less like inbound. You can't force anybody to like sign up. What are you doing in terms of outreach and other strategies that like, you know, you need to be creative about right now?
That's a good question, but I would say that also didn't change, you know, like you have to work hard for deal flow, even if you're very good, but you know, so I would say it helps to be lucky to hear about the right deal about the right time. But you know the famous saying that the harder I work, the luckier I get, right? So we focus on helping people, and we focus on helping our founders. But ideally, everyone that comes across Remagine Ventures should leave feeling like, wow, these guys are really helpful, or their feedback was great, or they made an introduction for me. And we get deal flow from all sorts of sources. We mentor, you know, we do office hours. There's a lot of virtual pitch days and demo days right now. But part of also what we do is to put our opinions out there, whether it's on our blog VC Cafe or our newsletter or Twitter. There aren't too many funds that are specialized in entertainment tech, gaming, and the areas that we focus on. So we find that a lot of people come to us, and more we co-invest with other funds. Also, like a lot of entrepreneurs that are looking to close deals are asking their existing investors, like, who else should we talk to? And we're very fortunate in that sense.
Very, very cool. I mean, when you look at like your plans for the next couple of months, what would you say is like key for you as a VC fund right now?
I think for the next couple of months, it's an interesting time because I think travel is still not going to go back to normal, and Israel is maybe a bit ahead in crashing the curve than the UK. So I would say it's really continuing to work with our portfolio and make sure that they're not just surviving but thriving, and then find the next amazing company that is going to change the world in our space. So we're constantly speaking with companies, we're speaking with investors, we're speaking with our investors, and it's I guess it's a virtuous cycle of like learning and giving at the same time, but it's a bit like, you know, more of the same, right? Like find good deals and support their existing ones.
So if you have to define your number one learning from this crisis, what would it be?
Basically, quality time with the family and balancing work and family has been a nice learning.
What would be your number one feeling from this crisis?
Anxiety. Perhaps it's a bit better now, but you know, there's a feeling, especially for entrepreneurs, of FOMO, or like I should be doing more with this time. But I just want to say, like, don't stress. You know, like it's surviving is enough. It's doing enough. You don't have to learn a new language or read 10 books or listen to all the podcasts. If you're stuck at home with your kids and you're trying to balance work and worry about the news, like, you know, it's okay to be anxious, but it's also, you don't have to stress about not doing more.
Well, thank you. You're talking from my heart.
Yeah.
What is the one thing that you believe changed forever?
I think remote work is here to stay. Even though we're going to go back to our offices, maybe in a reduced fashion, we're going to adjust to working remotely. People will spend more time working from home, and travel is going to diminish for the next foreseeable future. So it's going to be a faster adaptation of everything cloud and, you know, everything internet, remote deliveries, remote shopping, remote working. That's something that's going to accelerate massively.
What is the one business opportunity that because of this crisis you saw, but you wish someone would solve it, but you can't at the moment?
Direct to consumer testing. Basically, like pay $5 and there's a 24 hours, you get a kit to see if you have antibodies or if you're sick. And maybe in the future, you're going to need to show a recent test to be able to travel or to be able to, to participate in a company offsite. So I think this testing thing is not just like a one-time, it's going to be part of our lives, like we need to know, do we have it? Do we have antibodies, until there's a vaccine.
What is your one tip to work from home?
My one tip to work from home is don't eat all the time. Basically, I exercise in the morning with my family. We've been doing a live stream of Joe Wicks every morning. So I start my day off right. And then it's, be able to balance work, but also enjoy those little moments with the family, because it is a special time after all. But don't get dragged into your inbox all day long, because it's never ending and it's not going to make you more productive.
Eze, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your insights. And I wish you a lot of health, a lot of success. And I'm sure we'll hear each other and see each other very soon again.
Likewise. We'll speak very soon. Stay healthy and be well.
Thank you. Bye-bye.